Brent wailed and wailed. Tears streamed down his face in a flood until his howls seemed to echo like emptiness in a dark cavern that only answered with laughter, his wails echoing like laughter from an endless cavern, like the emptiness of his heart, just empty echoes and a long tunnel of broken dreams. And the foul smell of excrement as Laurie's leftovers stained brown on his sheets. Never in his life had he ever been violent or vulgar, traits he despised. For this reason her drug rape traumatized him, making him feel like a monster in his own body, a monster that he abhorred, Laurie's new creation, the monster who became Brent as he made love to Laurie, horrified him so much that he longed to crash his face that he now saw in the mirror as the most abominable and horrid face he'd ever seen. He felt he didn't deserve to live. He, the monster he'd become, must die, must suffer torments for the terrors he had inflicted on all that was beautiful, on all that made life worth living. He loathed his existence, hated what he'd become. He, a monster, deserved to die. Laurie seemed to feed on his loathing and terror, how he now abhorred the vile reptile he had become. Goal accomplished, she licked her chops, savored her victory, gloating that she had shattered all his goodness, all that Gail could love in him, and had transformed him into a battered shell, so that when the good man came back into existence and saw what an evil reptile he'd become, and what that reptile had done with the good man's body, the good man recoiled in horror, gasping for breath, hardly breathing at the audacity of the reptile's deeds. The reptile's vileness so tormented him, he began eyeing the drawers, mulling over in his mind how he could crush that reptile out of existence by slashing his wrist to stop forever that vile body that committed such terrors. His heart sentenced that reptile himself to the fires of hell. Brent, the reptile, had become a smelly worm that slithered in sewage. Laurie's laughter, ha 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 ha, seemed to enrage the heavens and stir all the demons in hell, who gloated over their victory because they had overcome a love that towered to the heavens, defiling it with vulgarities, so that Brent's sheets smelled of sewage. The foul smell raked his sinuses, stuffy from crying for hours and hours, while Brent wailed from a bottomless pit over the loss of all that had made his life worth living. Laurie's wink and smile as she exited her crime scene ensured Brent that she had more plans to ensure her devastation of the good man who wanted to marry Gail would be complete. Oh God, Gail must not see me so vile, so disgusting, mutilated, deformed, a monster. That's what I am now. The Jesuit higher-ups at Paramount Studios assigned Laurie McBride as Brent Spiner's publicist just months before she became his stalker in September 1992. As his publicist, she would now be allowed access to Brent while he worked at Paramount Studios and would forever change the landscape of Brent's life. To this day, those 3 weeks of September 1992, while Brent filmed a fistful of datas for his role on Star Trek The Next Generation, continue to devastate him. Laurie McBride's drug rape of Brent, using brain control on him, so that when he made love to Laurie he thought Laurie was Gail, left scars in his heart and soul so deep that Brent, who had never contemplated suicide, would contemplate it almost every day, the only thing stopping him, the thrill and majesty of Gail's love. Over the years he would deny the rape, or at least most of it. It didn't happen. It was only 1 day, not 3 weeks. Nothing so grotesque and violent could he have allowed. He would never betray the woman that he'd crawled 10 miles on his knees to see his Gail, with such a horrid act. Not for 3 weeks.
I'm proud to announce that my audiobook for The Forbidden Abyss Part 1, Brent Spiner and Vladimir Putin, is now available for sale at Amazon. I have updated my writer page, so you can go to my writer page and click on links to order it from there. Or you can go straight to Amazon. I'll have the links underneath this video. I am an Oscar-winning book narrator. Brent Spiner told me that as a result of my work on Jesus the Eternal Bridegroom and Robin Williams' Murder the Shimmering Sea, that I have won an Oscar. Of course, you'll never hear about this in Jesuit news. So anyways, I'm excited that this book is available, and I think I did a really good narrating job, and it's based on a true story. This is what I would recommend for people. If you want to hear my story in audiobook, this is the order, the best order to listen to it. Get The Forbidden Abyss Part 1, Brent Spiner and Vladimir Putin. And then I'm currently working on the audiobook for Brent Spiner's Flames, which are the first letters that I got from Brent Spiner and Vladimir Putin and Gerard Butler in the summer of 2011. I'm about 1/3 of the way through. I expect to finish that in about a month. I'm going gung-ho. Now that I have structure in my life, because I've been following the Gail commandments, I'm very productive. When you're healthier, you're more productive. So I expect that to be finished in about a month. So when that book one comes out, first listen to The Forbidden Abyss Part 1, Brent Spiner and Vladimir Putin, and that will give you the history of me and my men up to from about 1990 to about 2011, 2012. But the second half, The Forbidden Abyss Part 1, Brent Spiner and Vladimir Putin, is actually the first half of my very long book called The Forbidden Abyss Part 1, 1990 to 2011. But I didn't want to make the second half of that book into an audiobook because it's much better to hear the second half is the Quebec trial, which happened in August 2011. It's much better to hear the actual recording of the Quebec trial at Judge Terrance Jenkins' YouTube channel. So I'll have links for all that underneath. First, I'm going to actually put the order in, like number 1, listen to The Forbidden Abyss Part 1, Brent Spiner and Vladimir Putin. Number 2, listen to Brent Spiner's Flames, which will be out in around a month. And then number 3, listen after that to Judge Terrance Jenkins' YouTube channel. I've actually made a playlist of the Quebec trial 2011. You can hear the actual trial. And then number 4, listen to Jesus the Eternal Bridegroom. Then number 5, listen to Robin Williams' Murder the Shimmering Sea. And right now, here are my plans with my writing. I'm going to finish Brent Spiner's Flames audiobook, probably in around a month. Then I'm going to make the audiobook for Silver Skies, the novel, my first book, which I wrote in the 1990s, in which Matthew McConaughey starred and won his first Oscar, which of course you'll never hear about in Jesuit news. But he did. His first Oscar was for playing Dor Ben Habakkuk from my novel Silver Skies, which was made into a Steven Spielberg movie. That film is only shown at independent film festivals. The Jesuits have blocked it from mainstream movie releases, and all of the actors and producers and directors did it for free. It was like a labor of love. Steven Spielberg is one of my biggest fans, and he usually ends up making a movie of every book that I make. I hear that he's actually incorporating some of my voice readings into some of the movies because my voice work is that good. Like I said, I won an Oscar for it. And like Brent Spiner told me when he first wrote me, every time your story gets out, freedom wins, truth wins, justice wins. So I have to self-publish everything because if I worked through a regular literary agent or mainstream publisher, I couldn't get the story out without it being heavily edited, or they just wouldn't. No Jesuit publisher and just about all the mainstream publishers or Jesuit publishers will allow this story to get out. It's forbidden. In Russia, this book is in the textbooks and it's taught to their elementary school kids, which I find kind of ironic because some Jesuit reviewers at my YouTube channel, when another lady did a reading of some chapters from The Forbidden Abyss Part 1, they claimed it wasn't fit for children. But in Russia, they let children hear this. So, Jesuits are such a bunch of Pharisees and Sadducees and hypocrites. They put a magnifying glass on all the weaknesses in my writing. And when you go to my Amazon site, ignore all those one-star reviewers. They're all Jesuits. Of course, they're going to deny it and say that they're not, but they are. If either that or they're under Jesuit mind control and they don't realize it. That's why the reviews are so crazy at my Amazon page. They're either 1-star or 5-star, and there's hardly anything in between, because it's either a Jesuit reviewer or it's an honest reviewer. And then the Jesuit reviewers are claiming that the honest reviewers, that I wrote the reviews, which is really absurd. They're such liars. You can't trust. I have actually created a reviews page to give potential book buyers an idea of what my books are really about, because the Jesuits have just flooded their reviewers at my Amazon page. Anyways, the book is out, and I'm going to have links underneath this page, how you can order it and where you can read intelligent book reviews about my books. I spent some time updating my website and everything, so I'm an Oscar-winning narrator, man. I'm a good reader. They gave me an Oscar for this. I told Brent, how can you get an Oscar just for voice work? Aren't you supposed to have like a presence on the stage? He says, well, he said, apparently your voice work was so outstanding, they decided to give you one. So, anyways, it's out. And enjoy and like I said in a previous video, I don't think anybody is qualified to vote in a U.S. presidential election unless you know the story of me and my men. Because unless you know that, you will not know what's going on. And what's really going on and how the Jesuits are so invested into politics. So if you don't know what's going on, like in the Forbidden Abyss Part 1, Brent Spiner and Vladimir Putin, I let you know some things about George W. Bush and his interactions with Vladimir Putin, and even Bill Clinton, that you're never going to hear, like what really happened in the Kursk submarine disaster. That was an American torpedo. Anyways, that shot the Kursk, and Vladimir Putin and Bill Clinton made a deal. That's in this book, and it's in the audiobook. And then George W. Bush, when he was president, actually tried to take my life a couple times. That's in this book too. It's in this book. I didn't put every single time when he did it, but there was one instance where, that's why I used to be a staunch Republican. Now I'm in it. Only reason I went back to the Republican Party was because of Donald Trump, because he doesn't seem to be like George W. Bush. He seems like, the Jesuits seem to despise him, so that makes me think he must be okay. So that's who I voted for here in Florida. But Brent Spiner is kind of neutral about the election, though he liked Ben Carson, I think. But neither Brent or I appreciate what Ted Cruz did to Ben Carson in Iowa. I think Ted Cruz is he's like a, what do they call it? One of those slick salespeople, that he'll do. I think he's bought out by the Republican establishment. So you can't trust him. He's like a cheap salesperson. He'll just do anything to get elected. And what he did to Ben Carson, he won't admit it. And that makes me respect him even less, because Donald Trump is right about him. He's a phony and he's a liar. And he just knows how to get people to, he's a slick manipulator. As far as the presidential election, my choices right now are number 1, Donald Trump, number 2, Hillary Clinton, number 3, Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is a very humble man, according to Brent Spiner. Hillary Clinton has always been one of my staunchest supporters, but I'm leaning towards Donald Trump simply because I admire his courage, and the Jesuits seem to hate him, which means he must be the one we should vote for. But none of them is going to be perfect, because Jesuits can replace whoever gets into office with their Jesuit clone. But you really need to know the story of me and my men to be able to vote intelligently in the presidential election. If you don't know our story, you don't know beans about what's going on. So get this book and get an education